What if I told you that in pockets of America, the very concept of law and order has not just eroded, but in some places, utterly vanished? That thousands upon thousands of crimes, from brutal assaults to brazen daylight robberies, are going unpunished, their perpetrators walking free, laughing in the face of justice? This isn't a dystopian novel. This is happening right now in your country. For years, we've watched the headlines, shrugged off the statistics as isolated incidents. But a silent, terrifying plague has been spreading, state by state, city by city. While the world was busy debating political theater and economic fluctuations, something far more fundamental was collapsing beneath our feet: the rule of law. And when the law dissolves, society itself unravels. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on a terrifying reality. We expose the 10 U.S. states where the thin blue line has fractured, where prosecutors stand down, and where a deep, pervasive rot has allowed crime to fester, unchecked and unpunished. You won't believe what's happening in these places. And the chilling truth is, the forces that brought them to their knees could be coming for your hometown next. But here's the twist. It's not just the usual suspects. Some states on this list were once beacons of prosperity, bastions of safety. Now they are battlegrounds where citizens live in fear and criminals operate with impunity. This isn't just about statistics. It's about the very fabric of American life, fraying at the seams. And one state, in particular, has seen a complete, irreversible breakdown that will leave you absolutely speechless. For generations, the bedrock of American society was the promise of justice, the belief that if a crime was committed, there would be consequences. That basic social contract is now shattering. We're witnessing an unprecedented surge in specific shocking crime metrics that paint a grim picture. From a national average of just 49% of violent crimes being cleared in 2022, meaning half of all assaults, rapes, and murders go unsolved, to plummeting arrest rates for even blatant property crimes. The FBI's own data reveals a grim truth. Many police departments are overwhelmed, understaffed, or simply unable to keep pace with the explosion of lawlessness. While the media fixates on political grandstanding, a quiet, insidious war is being waged on our streets. A war where the criminals are winning. It's fueled by a cocktail of factors: radical policy changes like cash bail reform and progressive prosecutorial directives that refuse to charge even repeat offenders, an unprecedented exodus of seasoned police officers, pushing departments to critical staffing lows, and a disturbing lack of political will to confront the chaos head-on. The public, often desensitized by endless news cycles, has become unwitting spectators to their own vulnerability. This isn't merely about statistics. It's about the tangible, terrifying impact on everyday Americans. Businesses are closing, forced out by relentless theft and violence. Neighborhoods are emptying as families flee in search of safety. And the trust, that fundamental trust in the institutions meant to protect us, is evaporating. When law and order collapses in one state, it sends ripples across the nation, destabilizing our economy, challenging our democracy, and threatening the very idea of what it means to be an American citizen. The stakes could not be higher. We are at a critical juncture, and what you are about to see, state by state, is a stark warning of what happens when the rule of law becomes merely a suggestion. 1. California. But what happened next in California will leave you speechless. Once the golden dream, California has transformed into a nightmare for its law-abiding citizens. Prop 47, passed in 2014, reclassified numerous felonies as misdemeanors, including grand theft, meaning that stealing less than $950 worth of goods is treated as a minor offense. The result? Organized retail crime has exploded, with sophisticated gangs hitting stores in broad daylight, filling shopping carts with thousands of dollars of merchandise, knowing full well they face no real consequences. Walmart alone has lost billions. In cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, the sense of impunity is palpable. Shoplifters walk out with armloads of goods, often directly past security guards, who are forbidden from intervening due to liability concerns. Between 2019 and 2022, property crime in California surged by 6.2%, but the shocking part? Arrest rates plummeted. In Los Angeles, clearance rates for property crimes are in the single digits. This means over 90% of these crimes simply go unpunished. Homeless encampments, often rife with drug use and crime, have become permanent fixtures, consuming public spaces and breeding further disorder. The state's progressive district attorneys, often funded by outside interests, have implemented policies that effectively decriminalize vast swathes of criminal behavior, leading to a revolving door justice system, where even repeat violent offenders are back on the streets within hours. Here's the twisted irony. California once led the nation in technological innovation and economic growth. Now it leads in the mass exodus of businesses and residents, desperate to escape the spiraling chaos. Just last year, one major retailer announced it was closing 10 stores in the San Francisco Bay Area alone due to unchecked theft and violence. The state that promised opportunity now delivers only a chilling sense of abandonment, leaving its citizens vulnerable and its once thriving cities on the brink. But if you thought the West Coast was uniquely afflicted, wait until you see what's happening in Oregon. It's a societal experiment gone horrifically wrong. Oregon. And then there's Oregon, a state that consciously chose to dismantle its own legal framework with devastating consequences. In 2020, voters approved Measure 110, decriminalizing possession of small amounts of hard drugs like heroin, fentanyl, and methamphetamines. The promise was that treatment, not incarceration, would solve the addiction crisis. The reality? A tsunami of open drug use, homelessness, and related crime that has swept through its major cities. Portland, once a quirky, vibrant hub, is now infamous for its tent cities, needles littering the streets, and a complete breakdown of public order. Police are overwhelmed, often arriving at scenes only to find suspects have vanished, or that even if they are apprehended, district attorneys are refusing to prosecute based on the new guidelines. In 2022, a report from the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission showed a staggering 87% of Measure 110 drug citations resulted in no conviction. It sounds impossible, but it's real. You can be caught with enough fentanyl to kill dozens of people, receive a citation, and walk away with no jail time. This has created a magnet for drug traffickers and addicts, turning sections of the state into open-air drug markets. Businesses are fleeing downtown Portland at an alarming rate, citing safety concerns for their employees and customers. The twist here is the tragic optimism that preceded the collapse. Proponents of Measure 110 believed they were ushering in a more humane era. Instead, they unleashed a wave of despair and danger, with overdose deaths skyrocketing and calls for emergency services soaring. The very fabric of community has been torn apart, leaving residents feeling abandoned by their elected officials and preyed upon by those who know there are no consequences. But if you think drug decriminalization is the only threat, wait until you see the economic and criminal free-for-all consuming Washington state. It's far worse. Washington. In Washington state, a crisis of police morale and a wave of legislative changes have created an almost perfect storm for criminal activity. Seattle, in particular, has seen its police force shrink dramatically, losing hundreds of officers in recent years, leaving an already strained department critically understaffed. The response times for violent crimes have skyrocketed, and for property crimes, they are often non-existent. Coupled with state-level policies that restricted police pursuits and limited their ability to use force, criminals have been emboldened. The shocking fact: chop shops for stolen cars operate openly in some areas, as thieves know the chances of being caught and prosecuted are incredibly low. Car thefts in King County, home to Seattle, surged by over 30% in a single year, with clearance rates for these crimes hovering around 5%. That means 95 out of every 100 stolen vehicles are simply gone, their cases unsolved. Organized rings are targeting specific high-end vehicles, knowing they can be dismantled and sold for parts with little risk. Beyond property crime, areas once considered safe have seen an explosion in random assaults and drug-related violence, particularly in neighborhoods struggling with homelessness and addiction. But here's the twist: Washington state prides itself on its progressive policies and booming tech industry. Yet, its progressive justice reforms have inadvertently created a vacuum that criminals are eager to fill, driving away investment and talented workers. Citizens are now taking matters into their own hands, forming neighborhood watches and community patrols, because they feel their local law enforcement has been rendered toothless. The question isn't whether crime will escalate, but how long until the entire system buckles under the weight of its own unintended consequences. And speaking of buckling systems, what's happening in Illinois makes Seattle look like a picnic. The corruption runs deep, and the bloodshed is relentless. Illinois, particularly its notorious city of Chicago, is a chilling testament to what happens when political inaction and a revolving door justice system collide with entrenched gang violence. For years, Chicago has been synonymous with bloodshed, routinely logging more homicides than New York and Los Angeles combined. But it's not just the sheer volume. It's the chilling reality that a shockingly low percentage of these murders are ever solved. In 2022, Chicago's homicide clearance rate was barely above 30%, meaning nearly 7 out of 10 killers walk free. This isn't just a failure of law enforcement, it's a systemic breakdown. Beyond homicides, carjackings have become an epidemic, terrorizing residents and making everyday commutes a gamble. In 2021, Chicago saw a staggering 161% increase in carjackings compared to 2019, with many perpetrators being repeat offenders, often juveniles, who were quickly released back onto the streets. The reason? Cook County State's Attorney, Kim Foxx, has faced widespread criticism for her lenient policies, including dropping charges, refusing to prosecute, and effectively dismantling the consequences for violent criminals. This approach, intended to reduce incarceration, has instead created a dangerous environment where repeat offenders know they face minimal repercussions. The devastating twist: Illinois is a major economic engine, home to global corporations and vital transportation hubs. Yet, this rampant lawlessness is crippling its future. Businesses are relocating, conventions are skipping the city, and tourism is plummeting. The citizens of Illinois are caught in a grim battle with police officers, often demoralized and understaffed, fighting an uphill battle against a system seemingly designed to release the very criminals they apprehend. The question for Illinois isn't if things will get worse, but how much worse before a true reckoning. And if you thought the Midwest was struggling, wait until you hear about the shocking unraveling in New York, a state that once defined urban safety. Oh, New York. New York, once heralded as a beacon of urban revitalization and public safety, is now grappling with a shocking regression, largely driven by drastic bail reform laws. Enacted in 2020, these reforms eliminated cash bail for most misdemeanors and non-violent felonies, allowing countless defendants to be released immediately after arrest, regardless of their criminal history. The results have been catastrophic. Repeat offenders are committing new crimes within hours of being processed, creating a chilling catch-and-release cycle that has left police officers and victims utterly demoralized. The streets of New York City, particularly its subway system, have become battlegrounds. Violent assaults, robberies, and shocking, unprovoked attacks have surged, transforming public transit from a convenience into a terrifying gamble. The NYPD reported a 40% jump in major felony crimes in 2022 compared to 2019, with subway crime alone skyrocketing by 45%. But here's the most alarming statistic. Despite these increases, the conviction rate for many of these crimes has plummeted, with prosecutors often downgrading charges or dismissing cases altogether. The perception of impunity is now a grim reality for criminals. The twist: New York City, once the ultimate symbol of resilience and comeback, is seeing its vibrant energy drained by pervasive fear. Businesses, particularly small enterprises, are struggling with rampant shoplifting and brazen robberies, often facing little to no police response or prosecutorial support. High-profile, unprovoked attacks are regular occurrences, eroding the public's sense of safety and trust in the system. The very laws intended to create a more equitable justice system have instead created a less safe one, trapping ordinary New Yorkers in a terrifying spiral of lawlessness. And if you thought the East Coast was in crisis, wait until you descend into the deep-seated chaos of Louisiana. It's far, far worse. Down to Louisiana. In Louisiana, particularly in cities like New Orleans, law and order has not just deteriorated. It often feels like it never truly arrived for many of its most vulnerable communities. The state consistently ranks among the highest in the nation for violent crime, especially homicides. New Orleans, for example, frequently boasts the highest murder rate per capita in the entire U.S., a grim title it has held for multiple years. But here's the horrifying truth: the overwhelming majority of these killings go unsolved. In 2022, the homicide clearance rate in New Orleans hovered around a shocking 25%, meaning 3 out of every 4 murderers are walking free. The reasons are complex and deeply entrenched. A critically understaffed police department plagued by low morale, and a revolving door of leadership. A pervasive distrust between communities and law enforcement, and powerful, violent gangs that operate with an alarming degree of impunity. Drug trafficking is rampant, fueled by the state's position as a major transit hub. Beyond homicides, carjackings, and armed robberies are daily occurrences, often committed by repeat offenders who cycle through a dysfunctional judicial system. The sheer volume of crime overwhelms every level of the justice system, from overloaded courts to underfunded forensic labs. The devastating twist: Louisiana, with its rich cultural heritage and vibrant tourism industry, is being strangled by its own internal chaos. Once bustling tourist areas are now zones of caution, as visitors are increasingly targeted. Small businesses struggle to survive amidst constant theft and the threat of violence. The cyclical nature of poverty, crime, and a failing justice system has trapped generations, creating a pervasive sense of hopelessness. How can a society function when its very foundation is built on such unstable ground? And if you think Louisiana's struggles are due to its unique cultural context, wait until you see the hidden, silent decay consuming Mississippi. It's a testament to deep systemic failure. Mississippi, often overlooked in national crime discussions, is experiencing a silent yet profound collapse of law and order, particularly in its rural and economically depressed areas. While it may not generate the same headlines as larger cities, Mississippi consistently ranks among the states with the highest violent crime rates year after year. The shocking part? A dire lack of resources means that a vast number of these crimes, particularly in remote counties, simply go uninvestigated and unpunished. Police departments in many small towns are critically understaffed, some operating with only a handful of officers, covering hundreds of square miles. The grim reality: response times in some rural areas can stretch into hours or even days for non-emergency calls, effectively leaving citizens to fend for themselves. This vacuum is quickly filled by drug traffickers, particularly those pushing fentanyl, which has saturated communities and fueled a surge in overdose deaths and associated property crimes. Burglaries and vehicle thefts, often tied to the drug trade, are rampant. But due to a severe lack of forensic capabilities and prosecutorial bandwidth, the clearance rates are abysmally low. Many victims simply don't report crimes, knowing nothing will come of it. The twist: Mississippi, one of the poorest states, finds itself in a catch-22. It lacks the tax base to adequately fund its law enforcement and judicial systems, but its high crime rates deter investment and talent, perpetuating the cycle of poverty and lawlessness. The state's judicial system is often overwhelmed, leading to massive backlogs and plea deals that offer little deterrence. This isn't just a failure of a specific policy. It's a slow, agonizing breakdown of governmental capacity, leaving its most vulnerable citizens trapped in a forgotten battleground. And if you thought the challenges in the South were isolated, wait until you see the escalating violence tearing through Missouri. It's a crisis of epic proportions. Missouri. Missouri is in the throes of a violent crime surge that has left its major urban centers reeling and its citizens living in fear. St. Louis, in particular, has become a microcosm of this collapse, frequently ranking as one of the most violent cities in America. In 2023, St. Louis recorded a homicide rate that rivaled war zones, and the deeply disturbing truth is that a staggering number of these murders, like in other struggling cities, remain unsolved. The clearance rate for homicides often hovers below 40%, meaning thousands of killers are free, posing an ongoing threat. The issue extends far beyond homicides. Carjackings, armed robberies, and non-fatal shootings have skyrocketed, often linked to organized gang activity and the illicit drug trade. Like other states, Missouri has seen its police forces critically depleted by retirements and resignations, exacerbating response times and investigative capacities. Furthermore, the relationship between law enforcement and parts of the community is strained, hindering cooperation and witness testimony, creating a vicious cycle where criminals operate with confidence. Local prosecutors, often under political pressure, struggle with immense caseloads, leading to plea bargains that sometimes seem to prioritize speed over justice. But here's the gut-wrenching twist. Missouri is geographically at the heart of the nation, a crossroads of commerce and culture. Yet, its descent into lawlessness threatens to derail its economic potential and fracture its social fabric. The pervasive fear has forced businesses to abandon urban cores, and residents are increasingly seeking refuge in safer suburbs if they can afford to leave. The once vibrant heartland is now scarred by violence, and without a dramatic shift in policy and resources, the promise of the Show Me State is rapidly transforming into a tragic display of unchecked crime. And if you thought that was bleak, Maryland's story is a chilling example of systemic failure and a city held hostage. Maryland. In Maryland, particularly in Baltimore, the breakdown of law and order has reached epidemic proportions, leaving a major American city in a state of perpetual crisis. Baltimore consistently ranks among the most violent cities in the U.S. for its size, with its homicide rate per capita often eclipsing much larger metropolises. But the truly horrifying statistic is that a vast majority of these killings, sometimes over 60% in a single year, go unsolved. This means hundreds of murderers walk free year after year, perpetuating a cycle of violence and vengeance that cripples the community. The reasons for this deep-seated failure are multifaceted. A police department struggling with recruitment, morale, and deep-seated distrust. A judicial system often criticized for its catch-and-release policies, particularly for repeat violent offenders. And an overwhelming opioid crisis that fuels a substantial portion of the city's crime. Witness intimidation is rampant, paralyzing investigations and ensuring that many cases never even make it to court. The city's no-snitch culture, born of fear and historical grievances, further ensures that perpetrators often face no accountability. The shocking twist: Baltimore is a city of immense historical significance and economic potential, with a major port and prestigious universities. Yet, it has been unable to escape its own internal conflict, becoming a tragic symbol of a city effectively held hostage by its own criminal element. Businesses are closing, neighborhoods are decaying, and the sense of civic despair is palpable. This isn't just about individual crimes, it's about a complete and utter loss of faith in the institutions meant to protect, leaving citizens to navigate a daily landscape of fear. And if you think a single city can bear the brunt of this decay, wait until you see the sweeping impact across Pennsylvania. It's a systemic rot. Pennsylvania? Finally, we turn to Pennsylvania, a state where a confluence of progressive prosecutorial policies, an opioid crisis, and entrenched gun violence has created a shocking collapse of law and order, particularly in its largest city, Philadelphia. For years, Philadelphia has battled alarming crime rates, but in recent times, the situation has reached a critical boiling point. The city shattered its own homicide record in 2021, and while numbers slightly receded, they remain devastatingly high, with hundreds of lives lost each year. But here's the chilling truth: the vast majority of these murders go unpunished, with clearance rates often plunging below 30%. The architect of much of this chaos, according to critics, is District Attorney Larry Krasner, whose policies have included reducing charges for violent felonies, ending cash bail for many offenses, and refusing to prosecute certain crimes. This has led to a perceived soft-on-crime approach that has emboldened offenders. Police officers openly lament that they arrest suspects only to see them released hours later, often to commit new, more violent crimes. Beyond homicides, carjackings and organized retail theft have become daily occurrences, creating a climate of fear that impacts everyone from small business owners to everyday commuters. The opioid epidemic, particularly fentanyl, exacerbates the violence as drug gangs battle for territory and addicts commit petty crimes to fuel their habits. The ultimate twist, Pennsylvania, a foundational state in American history, is now wrestling with a profound identity crisis. Its largest city, once a symbol of brotherly love, is increasingly defined by its rampant violence and the pervasive sense of impunity. This isn't an isolated phenomenon. It's a systemic breakdown where legislative changes, prosecutorial discretion, and a lack of resources have created a perfect storm, leaving citizens wondering if their government is willing or able to protect them. The question is no longer if these cities can recover, but if they have already passed the point of no return. The picture is stark, isn't it? What we've revealed tonight is not a series of isolated incidents, but a dangerous, accelerating trend across America. When law and order erodes in 10 states, it sends seismic shockwaves across the entire nation. It's not just about the local statistics. It's about the very foundations of our society. Economically, this collapse is devastating. Businesses flee, taking jobs and tax revenue with them, creating ghost towns where once thriving communities stood. Property values plummet. Tourism evaporates. The cost of increased security measures, both public and private, becomes astronomical. Socially, the impact is equally grim. Fear becomes the default emotion. Citizens lose trust in their institutions, leading to an atomized society where self-preservation overshadows community. The very idea of public space, parks, libraries, downtowns, becomes fraught with danger. We see a rise in vigilantism as desperate citizens take matters into their own hands, a perilous sign of a society teetering on the edge. Will this trigger a domino effect? Could the conditions in these states, the policies that led to their decline, spread to your state, your city? The terrifying answer is, they already are. Many of the factors, police attrition, progressive prosecution, lenient bail laws, and the unchecked flow of illicit drugs, are national challenges. Is this just the beginning of a larger American decline? A slow unraveling that will see more and more regions fall into chaos? Or is this the ultimate wake-up call, a final opportunity to reverse course before the damage becomes irreversible? The stakes could not be higher. This isn't just a grim report, it's a warning. Tonight, we have laid bare the shocking truth. In far too many places across the United States, the very concept of justice is under siege. Thousands of crimes go unpunished. Victims are left without recourse, and criminals operate with a terrifying sense of invincibility. This silent collapse of law and order is not just an abstract problem. It is a direct threat to the safety, prosperity, and future of every single American citizen. The question isn't if this affects you, but how deeply. Do you believe America can recover from this systemic breakdown? Or is the decline inevitable, leading us to a future where true law and order becomes merely a historical footnote? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your answer might surprise us all. And if you found tonight's investigation as disturbing as it was vital, then make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, because next week's story could impact you directly, revealing another hidden truth the powers that be don't want you to see. Don't miss it.